What is up, guys? Evan Aldo here. Welcome back to the channel. Wanted to give you guys a nice update on Bitcoin, on what the markets are looking at right now. I'm going to talk about kind of what I think could be, potentially repeating, kind of the, range boundness potentially into the election. And then if we see, it would most likely be I would expect, a jump up, assuming, Trump wins, mixing, technicals with fundamentals a little bit. Right here. So I'll talk about that. If you guys enjoy the content, always appreciate you guys leaving us, smashing the like button and subscribing to the channel if you guys are new. So yeah, always appreciate that. Let's get into the analysis. So, the first thing here, we just look at like what's happened for the majority of this year since March. We come up, we reject, we get, very range bound generally, sideways to more bearish. It's a nice descending wedge. You keep making higher lows. Very descending wedge. More than half the time these statistically do break upward. Obviously not always. You got a technical target that's going to be eventually at around 85, but that's to be seen. That may not happen until, Q2 of next year, maybe even Q3 of next year. Who knows? Probably more likely in Q1 or Q2 if I had to guess, but we'll see. And right now, you're seeing a pretty big point, not a huge point, but a pretty big point, around 68, 69K, just below 70K. We almost hit 70K again, which is a big sell wall. And then if you're seeing this, you're seeing a higher anchor wave with your RSI starting to curve down on your 2-day. Last time you kind of seen this was over here, and we did come down. Money flow is still pretty good, so I don't think it's going to be like that bad. Like I could see potentially with this looking down to like into the end of the month, into election, maybe 62.5. So nothing too crazy, and just, kind of continuation of that range boundness. And if you guys are interested in the Discord, I do have a new trade in. I still have some longs and some swing longs that could take, potentially weeks to have an outcome on to play out. But I am in a new kind of short, using this. And if you guys are interested in that, the link is down below for the Discord. And in addition, if you guys want to get a free month in the Discord, if you sign up to either BloFin or Bybit down below and deposit at least $100, I'll give you one free month. So the promo with BloFin is probably the best one right now. 10% cash back on your first deposit, maximum 2K futures bonus, which is pretty good. And in addition to that, only with my link, you get 10% cash back in addition to that. Bybit's really good. They always got good promos going on. They're good if you want high liquidity and you're okay with KYC, but BloFin is probably the best one, at least one of the best ones with no KYC required right now. And the thing too is, what do you guys think about this? Trump, 64%, and most likely it looks like he's going to be able to win. We'll see what happens. It's not over though. It's not over until it's over. That's what, what we've seen. There's always curveballs, and other things happening, but we'll see. And if he does win, with all the things he said about crypto, I think that will, bring us up to new all-time highs. You're probably going to get true new all-time highs, factoring in inflation, you're going to have to hit around 75, 76K. And the chart that we could use to kind of show us that is going to be Bitcoin versus the DXY. And the true all-time high was right here. I marked it out. From, you can see this area, and then you got to get a little bit above where we were right now. It would be about 75K, I would think. And, my estimation of where we could hit that sometime, early next year. Sometime early next year. That's kind of I think that's a technical target, this kind of jump up. But early next year, I think, is when you could hit that. Maybe it'll happen in November after election, December, sometime December to early next year or Q2 of next year. It's hard to give you an exact area, but patience is kind of key here. And then hopefully we continue forward and get onto those higher kind of areas here. And just to show you guys quickly what I wanted to just show you guys quickly why I think we could come down a little bit in the short term. You could get a bull div that saves the day here, but when you follow the money, it does look like we may come down a bit more in the short term. The thing with trading this too is if you're kind of swing long, and you got some good risk-reward ratios, like a 2-to-1 risk-reward ratio, for example, you can be very profitable with good risk management and only winning about half your trade. So if you have one long trade, swing long trade, and that, let's say that gets stopped out, but you have a short trade down to some areas over here, and that wins, that's more than enough to be profitable, especially when the market is kind of, annoying, choppy like this. That's a good way. It's a lot of patience. It's an important thing that I like to to tell you guys about, because a lot of people, that's what they get tripped up in trading. They don't have the patience, the discipline for that. They want that instant gratification, but it's not that complicated to hedge the bets in the right way with good risk management. It's not as hard as you would think, at least in my opinion. So yeah, trigger wave right here on the 8-hour. We'll see if that brings us up, saves the day, pumps us up to 76K into election. I would be more in the bearish case. We'll see what happens. Ethereum trying to hold this level right here. It doesn't look as good as we kind of want it to. You're getting the the red Heikin-Ashi there. Money flow is still good though, so it's obviously, as always, it could go either way. But you got this trigger wave forming on your 4-day. That makes me think you may come back down to 2,400 here. That's what it makes me think, some of these time frames. But you do have the trigger wave on the 2-week, which that's a really good macro bullish sign, which makes me think that if you come down to these areas, it's going to be a big jump. Let's say you come down to these areas into end of the month, then you could get just a nice jump up into election, into November, and after it, something of this nature, and then finally hitting our target at 3,200 end of year or next year, maybe even slightly after election. If you get a big jump up, we'll see what happens. We'll absolutely have to see what happens here. So, that's what we're looking at right now. Short term, I don't know. My guess is that you may reject from this area. It is a little annoying of you got some money flow coming up and stuff happening, but I don't know. That money, I mean, on the lower time frames, got money flow coming up. This is coming down. It screams to me range bound. Maybe, I mean, it's my least favorite, pattern, but you could form a head and shoulder here and break down to 2,400. I'll go with that as my estimation. I don't know. If you look at ETH versus Bitcoin, big area we're trying to hold on to here. This could have bottomed out, but we're playing around with those previous lows right here. I think you do have a pretty large bull div on the 2-week. I would say most likely, if you could confirm this in 11 days, into early next month, this will most likely mark the bottom for ETH versus Bitcoin. It's possible it could go down a little bit farther. What I'm also looking at is this money flow to start curving upward on the 3-week, which is probably a good sign that we bottomed out. Similar to, see how it started to curve upward here. That was really the bottom, and did start to curve upward a little bit, back there in September of 2019. We haven't seen that really happen yet, at least, not when it was, maybe a little bit here and there, with that bull div, but we haven't seen it where it's this deep. So, you're probably not going to get a bull div there, but I don't know. I think there's a good shot. I mean, I like ETH. I think there's a good shot that it's bottomed out or getting close to bottoming out here. So I think ETH ultimately against Bitcoin is a good idea right now. AVAX, I like the 3-week trigger wave. That looks really good. Like I've been saying, guys, I don't think it's going to be too catastrophic. We could come back down to retest, 25, maybe come back down to retest 21 again, based on, some of, that doesn't look too bad in your 3-week, but based on some of these bear divs or whatever, your 2-day, you could come down a bit here. Looking like 25, but I think you're eventually going to break upward. Looking very good in the macro for a lot of these. Bitcoin dominance, probably should have looked at this before after ETH versus Bitcoin, but getting close to the top. I think the weekly still tells me we could come up a little bit higher, but I think you're getting really close to that 60%. It is a very obvious path to just 60% and nuke. Sometimes the most obvious path happens. If I had to guess, that's what I kind of think is going to happen. Once these RSIs start to curve down the monthly, you're probably home free for altcoin, Bitcoin evaluations, but just a little bit more for Bitcoin dominance, it looks like. Some popular ones, I mean, obviously Solana, short-term money flow, I think you can come down a little bit more, maybe lose this level, maybe even come back down to 153. It's kind of hard to say. You got some bull divs, and very short-term looks like you come up a little bit. Macro looks good. It's just that those like middle areas look a little dicey right now, so we'll absolutely have to see what happens. Matic is one that I really like here, just hitting this big point, trying to make higher lows. Higher low there, higher low here, hopefully. You got money flow generally coming up. I believe that's a bull div on your 2-week. I think that could give you what you need. I mean, it's a very low risk, high reward, potential long off of these areas with a stop below kind of here, and you could ride this up a lot potentially. So yeah, and I think that, I mean, if everything else goes down, this could go down. It could also hold up pretty well. Maybe retest at that 35, that low. we'll see what happens. I think overall it looks really good, especially for a spot buy. I think this looks great. I'm not gonna bother with ICP. I don't feel like looking at that. But SEI, that's a kind of bear div right there, potentially to come down to 36, which could be a pretty decent buying point on that. It's almost kind of a, yeah, it's a pretty big area. I mean, 30 to 35, I think, is going to be pretty big for a potential bottom here. You do have the trigger wave forming on the weekly, so be careful. This could absolutely, you know, that's the case to come back down to 30. I don't think you would take out these lows, but you definitely could come back down to 30. ApeCoin got its giant, you know, jump up with Ape Chain. Now it's starting to come down a little bit. You know, I could see a retest of $1, $1.10, that big point. You may come down a little bit more, but I do think the macro on this would be very bullish. Obviously a very risky project, but as you guys seen here, it can move, and it could it can move, especially with ape NFTs and all that, potentially, you know, starting to come back, mutant apes and all that, or, you know, Bored Apes, all these LXs, a little jump here, maybe a little jump here. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. TLT, you know, I wanted to take a look at the Treasury bond ETF, money flow starting to kind of come up. So I think too, as this starts to, it's getting that correction down, scaring some people away maybe, but this huge area that we're retesting back from October 22, I think once you start to jump, and as this continues to go up, that could, you know, potentially help more money come into crypto, especially as interest rates hopefully continue to move downward here. So that's kind of the important thing that we gotta, you know, kind of realize. So right now, I mean, it's just take what the market gives you. There's some good short entries, or at least the one for Bitcoin, combined with some good kind of swing long entries that I've been in the Discord. If you guys want more info on that, the link is in the description below. And BloFin, like I mentioned, really good promo right now. Like I mentioned before, get the deposit 10% cash back on your deposit. In addition, another 10% cash back only with my link down below for BloFin. No KYC, no VPN as well. Bybit, great if you're okay with KYC. Very high liquidity exchange, so check those out. And like I mentioned, that one free month in the Discord, if you sign up, deposit at least $100 in either of these, open a support ticket with your UID in the Discord, and we'll get you sorted. All right, guys, hope you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.